Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sphere of Success, the podcast which looks at challenge and adversity, especially in business, but also, you know what, we are all human beings, so we all have a personal life as well. And if only that could run smoothly, but it never does it? So it's all about how we alchemize challenge and adversity and make them our friends, make that into opportunities for growth, for our own growth, for our business growth, and also to see the light that comes from sometimes of the darkest times. It's sometimes when we join the dots looking back that we think, do you know what? It was awful while I was going through it, but actually now I'm pretty glad that I did go through it. So whatever that might mean for you, there's always the opportunity to show resilience and fortitude. And today I have with me, she's an incredible business coach. Her name is Sarah Yandell. She is absolutely making waves in the industry. It's such a joy to have her. I'm going to read her bio because it's something that I think will resonate with a lot of people. First of all, she communicates with all of her community every week, and she has this wonderful email that is called a journey from the resilient founder. All the ups and downs and all the bits in between, the successes and highlights. It's the snakes and ladders of the world that we live in, and she's very good at that. So we'll probably talk a bit about that when we have our discussion. And she takes women on a journey, and has already travelled from many business owner to inspirational leader herself. So this wonderful lady, Sarah, she actually walks the walk and talks the walk, isn't just telling you from a classroom perspective. She's actually gone through it. And I think from a business coach's perspective, that's really, really good, because it's fine doing a course and thinking that, I know it, I'm going to be a coach. But it's actually another thing to have actually gone through it and lived the experience. And I'm one of those people as well. So that's amazing, Sarah. And she knows what it's like to start from scratch. Because she's grown a 7-figure business and a team of 25 people in the past. She knew it was hard. She's made a lot of mistakes. Not many people say that, so that's really encouraging, because you know that Sarah's really transparent on her journey and built resilience and motivation. And actually that is there to help other people as well. She started her career in hospitality and was thrown in at the deep end, managing a team of a very young age. I can imagine. I could see you, Sarah, actually, everybody thinking, how old are you? This is brilliant. She went on to set up an international business unit from scratch and grew it to 10 million revenue. That's US dollars. But either way, that is it's a phenomenal achievement. Most people don't meet $1 million in their own businesses that they start. So 10 million is absolutely amazing. Sometimes we throw out numbers and we go, oh yeah, great. But you want to do the hard work that goes behind it. People, it's really tough to get going. And then from there, she's launched other businesses. She's founded about 5 and has reached annual turnover of 8 million sterling a year. Now, this is significant because you have to have the right structure in place to be able to grow and have a sustainable business turning over £8 million a year. It doesn't happen by accident. Now, what Sarah uses is a B.U.I.L.D, B-U-I-L-D framework that covers blueprint, uncover, implement, leverage, and develop, which I think is absolutely amazing. I'm sure we can delve into that when we're having our chat. And she creates a blueprint for businesses. She's going to be clarifying with you what it means to run your business, and devises a strategy that fulfills the vision. What do you want to achieve? What's your mission? What's your purpose? What's going to set you on fire? What gets you when it's raining outside or something awful's happened and you've got to just keep on going? What is that? She implements systems and processes so you can grow efficiently and consistently while saving time. Also by leveraging and building a fantastic team, because once you get to that level, you can't be doing it all on your own. Even with the wonders of AI, I would challenge anybody to do that and create that kind of business on a sustainable level. Now, the wonderful thing is with Sarah as well, she didn't all have plain sailing, as we discussed. Wonderful thing happened in her life. She became unexpectedly pregnant. after having failed IVF treatment. So you can imagine this was a baby that was a blessing, wonderful blessing, but completely by accident, by surprise. And that also throws into all sorts of things into the mix. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people watching and listening here that will go, you know what, I've had something similar in my life, or I know somebody who has that's close to me. And I tell you what, when you're faced with that news, not that it's happened to me, but I can imagine there are all sorts of mixed emotions: elation, fear, anxiety, can't wait, so well done, Sarah, because it looks like you have absolutely made a fantastic job of it. So welcome to the Sphere of Success podcast.
Oh, thank you, Deborah, for having me.
Oh, it is a real pleasure. So I'd like to actually just start off with, what made you go into business coaching? What was it that really drew you to that particular type of business?
Well, I think I've been coaching for years and years and years, to be fair, because even when I first started, as you mentioned, I was very young, but I was soon responsible for other people, and I didn't have any training at that point. I just went in at the deep end and just went by gut instinct. But funnily enough, I was going to originally be a teacher. This is another story, but I went to university and I was going to be a teacher, but I was thrown in at the deep end with a class of 12-year-olds from like the local council estate, and it was just a nightmare. There's no possibility of teaching them. It was more kind of managing behaviour. But teaching's in my blood. My dad was a teacher, so when I started coaching my own staff, it was, I was doing that the whole way through my career, really. So I wouldn't say this is new to me. It's formally new, as in I've only been formally a business coach for a couple of years, but I've always used the coaching approach when I've had people work for me. It's been the way I do things. It's the way I feel I get the best out of people. I mean, you need a balance always when you've got a team of people, but coaching makes a massive difference in terms of getting the best out of people, I think.
And so you're getting the best out of people from the point of view of team members, employees, etc. How do you transfer that knowledge into businesses that go, well, but you're not in my business. You don't know what it's like. I seem to have a load of people that it's like herding cats. My business is different. What would you say to people that have that kind of attitude that you think, well, perhaps there is a way that you can help them? What do you say?
Yes, I think you need to take a step back, really, and just think about who you've got in your team, because there's a lot of team dynamics involved, and it starts very early on with, the first part of my B.U.I.L.D framework is all about the blueprint, and that's to do with the vision for your business. And it goes back to that really. You really need to know what your vision is, and then you need to know who you need to recruit into your team who are going to be aligned to that vision. So as you build the team, if you're getting the right people, the people who are really motivated and believe in your vision the way you do, then a lot of those problems completely disappear, to be honest, because they're all...
I'm just going to interject there, Sarah. Oh, that was really exciting, and thank you. But what happens if you've got a legacy team? And I think we could all go, yeah, that's kind of like the ideal scenario. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you've got this wonderful group of people and you're like, really? What do I do now? Some people have been there for 20 odd years. Some people have just turned up. Some people are, just doing it for the paycheck. How do we cope with that kind of, I wish I could just start again?
Yeah, that is challenging. And I have had that as well. Just, walking in and you're suddenly managing all these people. And that is really tough. And I learned a lot around that when I suddenly realised that people aren't motivated in the same way I was. So that's the first thing you need to understand. All of those people, what is their motivation? What motivates them? What do they enjoy? What don't they enjoy? And if I went in as to run a team that was already existing, then I would be having one-to-one meetings with all those people to find out, get their feedback, find out what they enjoy about what they're doing, what they'd like to be doing, what their ideal sort of tasks are, and then see how we can move things around in the team to get people doing things that they're really good at, that they really enjoy doing. So they're aligned to that. and then do some team building events. That worked really well for me when I was running my own business, getting people to work together in a team, and playing to their strengths and supporting other people. I think that's like a really good thing when you try and get people going forwards as a team.
And if you're the kind of boss that says, I always get people that are incompetent, they need micromanaging, and you see a pattern emerge, what do you say to the person who's saying that?
What, the person who's managing them, you mean?
Yeah, the manager.
Yeah, well, there's always two people involved. So I think you do need to examine yourself in terms of how you're managing that situation. And I know from my experience, I mean, having some coaching yourself can make a massive difference in terms of how you deal with those kind of situations. It can become quite difficult, and you might have to go down sort of routes you don't really want to go down, but these things have to be addressed and you can't put them off. I think the worst thing you can do is put off difficult situations. If you've got people in your team who you've tried all the ways of motivating them, getting them involved, and they're still not really doing things as they should, then you need to address that issue. You can't ignore it, because it will affect everyone else, and everyone else will then not perform well either.
And how do you help people have difficult conversations?
Well, again, it's practicing it, really. I think when I'm coaching people, you can actually go through a role play scenario in that case, which is really helpful. I've done it myself when I've been coached, where you actually literally practice, because it's really hard to do it unless you kind of just get into learning which words work and and every situation is different as well. So the more you practice at doing it, the better you'll become at dealing with that situation. And I think the more prepared you are, it often isn't as bad as you think it's going to be once you've actually found out what the root problem is and why the situation is as it is.
I have to agree with you there. Often I know I've had sleepless nights about the fact that, the next day was the difficult conversation day, and you've been putting it off for ages, for as long as possible, but, tomorrow's the next day, and you're kind of like stomachs in knots by the time you get to the office, and you just know that, you've got to do this difficult conversation. But you're right, when you're actually in it and you're having the chat with the person, it's often not as bad as what you think you projected it to be.
Yeah, I think the worst thing is putting it off, and people are people, and there's not many people who are sort of bad people. So I think it's listening to them.
Well, you hope you haven't got one of those in the team, don't they? Yeah, absolutely.
But it's understanding where they're coming from, really. So the more you understand their perspective, the easier it is for you to come to an agreement on what needs to change and what they need to do going forward, that you're going to both agree on is the right way forward, and then make sure they have objectives set so they know what they're aiming for and what support they need. Ask them what support you need. Do you feel you don't have all the skills to do this job? In which case we can look at what help you can get, if you need coaching or training, if you need to pair up with someone else in the team, I found sort of, it depends on motivation, but often people like to be recognised, so it's giving them opportunity to shine. That can make a big difference. Some people don't like that, so you can't say, if you get this opportunity to go on. I worked in travel for years, so sending people on trips was usually a major way of motivating them. We'll send you on a trip to do some contracting in Paris. Oh, okay. Yeah. Or get an opportunity to go and meet a supplier. So things like that. It depends. It's very hard to be generalistic about these things because everyone is so different, and I think that's the main thing to understand, is to recognise exactly what the underlying thing is that's causing friction or some problem that they're not happy about. And it could be, like you touched on earlier, it could be nothing to do with work. It could be a home situation.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with work, but they don't like to raise it at work. But if you've got a good relationship with them, and they will open up to you, and then you can address whatever that might be, whether they need more flexibility around their work. whatever it is. So yeah, it's the whole person. It's not just the person who comes to work.
Well, absolutely. I wish we could leave sometimes the personal side, but it nags you throughout the day or the week, and you might have to have extra time to have phone calls to sort stuff out. I mean, even in the case of power outage or something like that at home, and it's sent everything into disarray, or you've not had a major accident, but something like a tire just kind of went down, and you've got to get in the garage, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, and you can't just park it, can you? Because you've got to sort it. So yeah, absolutely. And that can put people on edge, and it can put people in a more sort of aggressive stance, or fly off the handle for no reason that you think. And so it's always good to have a little bit of a delve into.
And I think if you've got children as well, and this does often fall to women, that's that's a big thing. That's the additional concern that you've always got. It happened to me once. Commuted all the way to London for the phone to ring for the nursery to say your daughter's ill, you need to come and get her. And I'm like, okay, that's like 2 hours to get back again.
Yeah. Worrying as well all the way back. So absolutely. And so you focused specifically on women. I'm right. Yeah. Okay, so interesting enough, as you're looking at women and helping them grow their businesses, was there a particular, I know you are a woman, but was there a particular reason why you thought, let's help women especially?
Yes, because I strongly feel that there should be more women in leadership roles in general. And I think by running a business, I know I'm not saying it's easy to run a business. I know it's not. It's really, really challenging. I think by running your own business, though, you can potentially grow it to a point where you've got a team and you can step back from being the busy person doing everything, and you can be a successful business owner and still have time to do other things, to spend time with your family. Whereas if you work in a big corporate and you're in a senior leadership role, that is really hard to achieve. It's really hard to do, I think, in the current situation. Hopefully that will change in the future. But I think we need to do all we can to support women to get, to really be ambitious, to not just be happy with sort of doing something small, but to really go for growing a substantial business. Because why not? We're as good, or we've got different skills to men. I think that's the thing, and I think the balance is the important thing, which is what I talk about. I talk about balanced leadership, but I think balance between men and women in leadership roles is also really important, because we bring different strengths to the table, and at the moment it's improving a bit. I think the balance for women in leadership roles in more purpose-led businesses, interestingly, is more equal.
What do you mean by purpose-led businesses?
Well, businesses that are really trying to do something for the good, as opposed just to just make money. So those types of business women seem to be more attracted to, and tend to do better in, or grow, get higher up in terms of their seniority in those types of businesses. But overall, there's still a very small number of CEOs that are women across big companies. So if I can do my bit to adjust, to try and help that change, that will be very satisfying for me.
I mean, apart from the obvious, with the fact that the natural kind of demarcation of duties with regards to children, maybe looking after elderly parents, that more caring role that women naturally adopt, and there's nothing wrong with that, but obviously that is, I think, one of the major reasons why women aren't in positions of ultimate leadership within organizations, because they choose other priorities first, or that's just how that happens. But obviously, it's the choice of that family to do what they do. What's the predominant reason, do you think, that women aren't thinking in that big business perspective?
I think the main reason is what you've just said, to be honest. I can't see any reason why otherwise, other than a lot of us do want to have family time. and other things other than working. But I think if you're doing something you enjoy in work, then that shouldn't really be the case. I think it is really the social side of things that holds people back, that they think they can't do all of that. And I know, speaking for me anyway, as I said, my daughter wasn't expected, so I was not young when I had her. So you're sort of then get to the point where you've got potentially children, and then you've got parents that are getting old, and you end up having both sides at the same time, which is what I kind of have at the moment. So you're still kind of feeling you're having to do mum duties, but also daughter duties. So it's a massive thing. It's a big impact on trying to do all those things at the same time.
Indeed. And I was talking to a business coach not so long ago, and he specialises in helping female founders get funding. And he was talking about the difference between the way in which women say, oh no, I can't do that because I'm not quite there yet, whereas men go, well, I want it, so I'm going to go for it, and then I'll learn on the thing. So I suppose, and again, I mean this not in a derogatory sense between men and women, but the conscientiousness about, oh, I need to be all singing and all dancing before I go for funding, as opposed to the chaps who are going, do it anyway, learn on that, I'll learn as I go along. Do you see anything like that from a different psychological viewpoint from women that perhaps is holding them back necessarily as to going for things that are perhaps something that they could quite feasibly do, but in their minds they're going, no, I can't quite do that?
Yeah, no, well, I can empathise with that as well, because I've been guilty of that too. Yeah, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I don't know whether that's a female trait, but I certainly recognise it in myself, that I want everything to be just right. And I think it's a really tricky one, because I don't think it's good for women to be more like men in lots of ways. I think it's more a case of kind of meeting more in the middle, maybe. But yeah, I do think women feel more need to get everything right before they sort of go forward, rather than, I suppose, take less risk, maybe. I think that's probably what it is. And maybe that does stem back to, they think, well, everything comes back to me in terms of, I need to worry. I can't, it's just not me. It's not just me I've got to worry about. I have to worry about everyone else who's depending on me. So maybe that is part of why they're less likely to take the risks, which men are more likely to take. I mean, my first business I founded was self-funded, so I've never been for funding. It was self-funded. And I don't know how I'd have felt about getting funding, actually. I think I'd have found that quite hard myself, to be honest.
It's interesting, isn't it, that dynamic? And as I say, this business coach specialises in helping women and their mindset, and perhaps that, there's limiting beliefs which are stopping them from doing something which is perfectly feasible. But then on the other side that I've heard as well, and I suppose it's a bit of a chicken and egg, if the women aren't applying for funding as much, then the people who are looking to provide the funding aren't looking at women as much. But they do perhaps go with what they know, and that is often awarded to a man or men as opposed to a female founder. So it's like you say, it's a work in progress, isn't it? The more women that are stepping up and looking at things in a different way.
I mean, interesting. I'm working, I do mentoring for the King's Trust as well, and I have a mentee at the moment, and she's applying for some funding, some government funding, which is being offered for the creative industries. So I was really excited when I saw she wanted to do that. So I'm helping her with that, like putting a proposal together. So that would be really exciting to see how she gets on with it. So yeah, she was keen to do it. So we shall see what happens. It's obviously that's it's not funding as in it's actual given money. So it's quite different in that respect. It's actually giving money to a certain number of people.
Oh wow! Well, I wish her all the very best. It sounds incredibly exciting, and you too along that journey as well. And so we're looking at the overall thing of women improving, and of course we've now touched upon something which I think is really important, is that the desire or the necessity, and both, for women to be masters of many things in their lives, and actually the buck stops with them, and it's the childcare and maybe the parental care, or bit of both or what have you, the day-to-day running of the household often. How do you help women to delegate and prioritize? And you've mentioned systems and processes to be able to have their cake and eat it, as it were.
Yeah, it's funny you should talk about cake, because when I talk about process, I talk about that being as a recipe for making a cake, actually. So I quite like that analogy. But I think, when you're starting a business and it's starting to grow, the process side is really important once you've got a way of doing things that's working. And that really is gold dust when you bring people into the team. A lot of people come to me who they've recruited people and they say, it's just not working. I might as well do it myself. It just takes too long to explain it to them, and they still make mistakes. And I think you just have to sort of backpedal a bit on that one and look at what it is you want them to. It goes back to recruiting the right people in the first place, obviously. But once you've got the right match for the work that you want them to do, it's then making sure that what you want them to do is all processed so that when you delegate it, you show them what's needed, and then you show them where they need to go to find that information, so they don't keep coming back to you all the time. They can go to a system and see how they need to do it, and then it's much easier for them to learn it, and actually if they make mistakes they can go back and see where they've gone wrong rather than keep coming back to you. So it's quicker for them, and it saves obviously you all the time of going backwards and forwards to sort of help them learn what that job is.
And when we're thinking about women's psyche going into business, do you find that there are more women who want to build up a legacy business, or are you looking at women who are building up a business for exit?
I would say more legacy at the moment. I think it goes back to the funding thing. I think if you've gone for funding, you're looking at the exit. If you've self-funded, it's more likely to be a lifestyle business or a business that you can step back from, but still have a major shareholding on. So that's in my experience. I'm sure there are women out there who are going straight for exit. But I think what I talk to people about when I'm coaching is you don't have to exit the business, but doing all the things that a business needs to be able to exit are essential anyway if you want to actually not be involved in all the day-to-day work. So think in terms of exiting, and then you've got everything set up so that if you do suddenly get an offer that you can't refuse, it's ready to go. And if you don't, or you decide you don't want to, you just want to go and spend half your year on a nice tropical island, you can do that instead and still hold on to your business and have a CEO running all the day-to-day for you, which seems like a win-win to me.
Well, absolutely. But I'm one of those people that I don't want to relax in that sense. It's something where I enjoy so much what I do. It's such an integral part of my life that not to have it would be alien to me. It's not that I wouldn't know what to do with my time. I could fill every minute very productively and enjoy myself in different ways. But I do actually find what my business is the enjoyment and the fun factor as well. So it's kind of like integrated as a bedrock into my life. Do you find that there are women who are growing business that are similar to me that actually, are just, there's a symbiotic with the business that, we are completely it and it is completely us?
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what, as you were saying, it's the enjoyment of the learning, and that's, you can do that all the time in your own business because you can take it the way you want to take it. So if you decide, I want to really learn more about a certain area or go into a different market which seems really interesting, then you can, because it's your business. So you can go and explore all the different options of what you might do with your business and learn all the stuff that you need to learn by doing it. And if, like you are and I am, learning is just part of your DNA, you just want to keep learning new things, and despite they don't always work, the resilience kicks in and you just think, well, okay, that one didn't work, we'll move on and try something new. And that's where you get your satisfaction from, your motivation from, for people like us.
Hang on, I pressed a button. Hopefully I'm there. Yes, I'm back again. So yeah, absolutely. It's something that's very much integral as part of my life, and it doesn't define me. I am who I am, but at the end of the day, I get a lot of pleasure, and it keeps my brain active and it keeps me involved, and it's something which I wouldn't give up without a struggle. So yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that, because people say, well, when do you want to retire? When do you go for those long beach holidays? And I think, no, that's not for me. And so, you know, everybody.
I've never liked beach holidays myself anyway.
No, people will think me mad, but I'm very pale skinned. I go red and burn, and I don't like sun particularly. So that's not a very good combination. So now I'd like to just kind of move this conversation on. I'd like you to go through your B.U.I.L.D framework, which is very much your intellectual property. It's something that you've devised and created. So please do take us through that journey and what it means to a business to actually adopt that framework.
Yeah, of course. So B.U.I.L.D starts with the blueprint. So a blueprint is basically all around thinking about where you want the business to go, and that starts with your vision. As you know, vision is really important. It's a big motivator as well. And then you need to think about the strategy and the actions that you'll need to take in order for that vision to actually come to life. And then the U in B.U.I.L.D is all about uncovering the power of numbers. I think numbers tell brilliant stories. I know some people say the numbers is the tricky part, and don't know why, but that seems to be a more female trait that people say that. But I think numbers are fascinating and they tell a story. And I think a lot of business owners are very reliant on their accountant to give them the information they need. But accountants are retrospective, so what you really need to use your numbers for is to plan forward. So look at what they're telling you and really sort of be clear on where your profits lie, which products or services have the best profits. And then I always use the 80-20 principle with my clients, really understand who are the most important people in terms of the top 20% clients or customers, the top 20% product or service, and then you can look at pricing. So all of those numbers are really useful. There's masses of things you can do to get a much clearer picture on your business. So that's important. And you'd be surprised how many clients I work with who are running quite successful businesses but still don't really understand their numbers. So
I ask people all the time, what's your cost of sale? And they kind of glaze over.
Really?
Well, okay, really? Really? And they go, I should know that, shouldn't I? And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah, and I've worked with clients who's look, there's cash in the business, and that's all they're looking at. They're not actually looking at their bottom line. It's like, okay. So yes, there's lots of things. I mean, cash is by far the most important. I think say cash is king. So yeah, revenue is vanity. Profit is, I'm trying to remember actually. I wrote that down earlier. Revenue is vanity and profit is sanity, yeah. But cash is king. So yeah, I mean, certainly with business I ran before, we had 8 million turnover, we had a really high profit, but cash was always the biggest problem. Depends on your business model, obviously. So that's a really key thing when you're looking at vision, strategy. The number side of that is important. When does the money come into the business, and when does the money go out of the business? So that was the numbers. The I is, we touched on a little bit, that's around implementing systems and processes. So we talked about that a little bit already. So that's really key when you first start and when you grow, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I think smaller business owners think it's a bit scary, and it's only for really big businesses, but even sole traders can use systems because it helps you yourself to make sure you do things the same way every time. And I think the most important thing is with systems and processes is there has to be a central system for all the systems and processes, because there's no point doing them and then you're like, oh, where is that one that I wrote? I can't remember where I put it. And then they have to be updated as well, because system is only valid for the time it's written. If you then, as you know, tech and everything else changes so regularly, you have to keep updating those systems and update the index of all the systems. So it sounds complicated, but it's, if you get into the habit of doing it and your team get into the habit of doing it, it makes everything so much more streamlined. So, and leverage is all about building an aligned team, which again we have talked about, and that's starts with recruiting the right people who understand your vision, your culture. Building a culture is really important to get the right people who work well together. And I know from my experience, again, made a lot of mistakes around recruitment in the past. And I think the main thing I've learned is very much to recruit based on their potential rather than necessarily what they've actually done, and on their attitude. So going from my own experience, when I started, when I first set up a business for an international company, it was a student travel company, and I didn't know anything about that business. I'd worked in hotels, and they were a student travel business that did flight only, and they brought me in because of my hotel experience. I didn't know anything about flights or student travel or anything like that. And I look back and I think my boss saw something in me that I never saw in myself at the time, which was pure determination. And I was not going to give up. It was really, really tough at times. But I absolutely worked my socks off to make sure that was a success. That was a success, which it was. So trying to see that in your potential team members is really key. The ones that are going to give 110%, probably 200% in my case. Especially if it was travel, because I was working all over the world. So it was, you didn't get a lot of sleep sometimes. So so that's the team side. And then D is for develop a future-proof plan, which, that's a really tough one because the future is so uncertain. And, what's a future-proof plan? Well, a future-proof plan is, it's having the plan, it's having the vision, but making it flexible. So it's looking at all the tweaks that you need to make and adjusting to the circumstances that you're in, and looking at the potentials that there are, which happen all the time. So you just have to keep that a fluid plan, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't have a plan. I think Microsoft recently said that their plans are now only 3 months at a time, because that's how short the market is in terms of changing. So it's something you have to keep looking at on a monthly basis. This was the plan we had for the quarter. What needs to change? What do we need to adapt? What opportunities are there? So it's just keeping an eye on it all the time, really.
It keeps you agile as well, and keeps you relevant too, and doesn't mean that you can sit on your laurels and think, right, okay, fair enough, well, the world is a fast moving pace and will only get quicker in my estimation, because we have now the technologies in place, etc., to speed things up in an exponential way. And so, people used to say, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, 5 years? Oh, God, no idea. I don't know. And I'm completely fine with that, in the sense that, sometimes you think, well, how can you make a plan? Well, the thing is, you just have to have that goal, that vision, how you're going to get to it, all things being equal. And then if something were going to come with a threat or what have you, then you've got some contingency. But I think it's that ability to pivot, to change, to be agile, be flexible, never take what you were doing before as read, that it's going to work this time necessarily. But ultimately, if you can get your core, your building blocks in place, that your unshakables. And I think a lot comes around culture. Like you said, if you've got a strong culture and a shaky sales, that probably will pull it through. If you have strong sales but an awful culture, the likelihood is you're not going to do very well on the long run. So with the business I was running, that got to 8 million. That we were running that business in 2008 when it was the financial crisis, and we had a call center and we were doing short breaks, and the short break market literally disappeared overnight. The phones just stopped ringing. It was really, really tough. We had to make redundancies, and we had to change our business model quite dramatically, because we still had the top end of the market, because they weren't so affected by that sort of financial crisis, but we lost the short break market, which was younger people. So the high end market so we changed our business model to be much higher end, bigger holidays, more expensive luxury holidays. But it was a massive change, and pretty tough. So, and that's I think one thing I find is really useful, coming back to the numbers, is having different scenarios, doing sensitivity analysis. So you can have all your numbers for what you hope to achieve or budget to achieve in the next year,
And then you can play with them and you say, what if type scenario? What happens if the revenue suddenly drops? What happens if the margin suddenly drops or what happens if it goes up? What's the consequence of that? And you can see what the effects are down the line. And you can see, where your break-even points and, what's the sort of the lowest you can go before alarm bells really do go off. All that sort of stuff. If you're looking at it, cash you really should look on every day. I think cash is a daily check-in, really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, actually, that's interesting. I was talking to a very successful PR agent. She's amazing, and she worked with a firm, and she has a very strong ethics in the fact that if they're not ready for success in the way that she can bring it, she won't work with them. And this company hadn't told her completely the truth of where they were, etc. And so she started to work. She got them in national newspapers, etc. Their phones were ringing off the hook. They could not contend with all of the inquiries and the desire for their service because they just weren't set up to be able to cope with that. And I know that sounds like a wonderful problem to have, but when you're there, it can create such a backlash with your reputation that actually you've got to do things in a sustainable way. And as she said, it put her reputation on the line with all the journalists, etc., with people complaining that to the newspaper that this company wasn't fulfilling what they said they would do and all of this kind of stuff. So actually, to be ready for the success in a tsunami of success is just as important to make sure that you don't have the risk factor. But as she said, they just
well, that was exactly when we launched the business. It was the other way around, because that was 2003, and Google pay-per-click advertising had just kind of come onto the scene. And it just took off. The business took off. So I'd done all the best case, worst case scenarios when I was doing the planning for the business, and we were well over the best case scenario. So we were like turning over 500,000 in the first year. So in fact, it was less than that. It was less than a year we were turning over that sort of money, and that involved, in the end, we didn't have the systems in place. We were hiring reactively, bringing the wrong people in, so all kinds of stuff went awry.
Absolutely, people go, "Oh, if only," but actually, there is a downside to that that excessive success too quickly. But still, I think I'd rather have it that way than the other. But
it's very exciting. It's very exciting, but it's a bit of a roller coaster.
Absolutely. Now, Sarah, everybody listening, I think that what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And as we said right at the beginning, you don't just sit there from a classroom-based course or just a few years in an average business. You've really worked at the highest levels, and you've seen that at the sharp end, and you've gone through your ups and downs from a personal level within business as well. So it's absolutely, I think people should really absolutely be in touch with you, have a chat with you. You're not a salesy type of person in the least, so you will be speaking with people without trying to force a product upon them. So, in this world of uncertainty and economic hardship for many people, and with tariff wars and all this sort of thing going on, do be in touch with Sarah, because I know that she is a past master at this and can provide some really solid information that could be worth its weight in gold to you. Saying that, Sarah, how can people get hold of you?
Well, my website is yandellcoaching.com, and my email address is sarah@yandellcoaching.com. So it's quite easy to remember, really. Just remember my name. You can't go too far wrong.
Yes, I love that. And all of the details as well, everybody, will be in the show notes as well. So please do go have a look and be in touch with Sarah, because as I said, wealth of information, and sometimes too much information. And so when you go with people that actually have lived this and are doing it every day, that's always a great place to start, because the voice of reason can then shine through, and it can save you an awful lot of time trying to learn this thing by yourself, because once you're in the thick of it, often you need that extra pair of eyes to tell you where your blind spots are, so that you can see, oh, actually, yeah, that does seem to be getting the results that I don't want, but I never realized that what we were doing was actually getting us there. So yeah, really, really useful. Sarah, thank you. Thank you so much for for being on the podcast. I've absolutely enjoyed everything that you've said. And, as I always say with podcasts, long form organic content really does show the authenticity of our guests, because you can't prepare for this. You need to know it intrinsically and be able to communicate it in a way which is clear and that resonates. And you've done just that. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, it's been, I've really enjoyed it. So thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. And for everybody listening, thank you as well. It's so wonderful to host you, and I do hope that you found this content useful. And indeed, as I always say, please like, comment, and subscribe and share, because this could be something which is really useful for somebody that you care for, that you have admiration for, and that ultimately, if it's not for you right now, could be somebody else's passport to ultimate success. So everybody, thanks again, and see you all very soon. Be successful. Bye-bye now.